As our second topic shows, even the smartest people in the generative AI space are having a hard time figuring this out. So, legendary VC firm Andreessen Horowitz, they just published a deep dive into the generative AI market, and it's called Who Owns the Generative AI Platform? So they basically have met with dozens of founders, operators, people who are working directly in generative AI to kind of understand where the value in this market will actually accrue. And they break down the generative AI tech stack into three main categories. First is infrastructure. So think the cloud platforms and the hardware and chips used to host and train models. Then second is the models themselves, these foundational language models like GPT-3 that power generative AI tools. And third are the apps, the actual products like the Jaspers of the world that customers use. And the full post is well worth a read, and we'll link to it in the show notes. But Andreessen's conclusion is essentially as follows. They say that we've observed that infrastructure vendors are likely the biggest winners in this market so far, capturing the majority of dollars flowing through the stack. Application companies are growing top-line revenue very quickly, but often struggle with retention, product differentiation, and gross margins. And most model providers, though responsible for the very existence of this market, haven't yet achieved large commercial scale. In other words, the companies creating the most value, i.e. training generative AI models and applying them in new apps, haven't captured most of it. They also strongly note that today they don't appear to see many competitive moats at all in this market. But the market itself is so important to understand because it's so vast. They say, quote, the potential size of this market is hard to grasp, somewhere between all software and all human endeavors. So we expect many, many players and healthy competition at all levels of the stack. Paul, let's start off by talking about what this means specifically for marketers before we dive into the overall market dynamics. So if I'm a marketer, what should I be taking away from this analysis?
Yeah, first of all, I mean, just kudos to the three authors of the piece. I think it came out in January. They don't put this drives me nuts. They don't put dates on it. Their post. I actually don't know exactly when it came out, but it came on my radar last week. So it's possible this has been out since like late January. But it is a really well written piece. Like it does a great job of connecting the dots and explaining some relatively complex concepts. So great job. It is an 18-minute read though. So like if you're in, you're committing to, to going deep on this topic. Um, my first reaction was for marketers and business leaders, the main consideration is at that application level, the software companies that are being built to enable you to do things more efficiently, to be more creative, to improve your decision making, to personalize, whatever it is. The key to me here is like, how in the world are we supposed to bet on the winners? Like,
Hmm.
if I'm building my tech stack and I need an AI writing tool at the core of that tech stack, and I go get Jasper or Writer or Hyperwrite or WordTuner, or I just go direct to OpenAI's APIs and I build my own stuff. Like, it's really, really hard if the VCs who do this for a living can't figure out who the winners are going to be and what their mode is going to be. As a marketer who doesn't spend your entire day analyzing this, how do you figure out which SaaS companies to bet on? And this leads me back to what I was saying at the beginning about the confusion in the marketplace. It's way safer if I'm a marketer to say, I'm just going to bet on HubSpot. Like they are core to my tech stack. It's what we've said for years for people. How do you get started with AI? I have said it over in talks. You and I wrote it in our book. Start with your existing tech stack. The key way to infuse AI in your business right now is go ask your existing core tech companies, do you have smarter features we're not using? Because if the answer is yes, we actually have an AI writing tool baked into our platform, or we have a generative AI tool that creates images in our platform, great. I don't have to go looking for one that I don't know the company behind them. I've been using HubSpot for 7 years. I trust you all to do this right. I'm going to just ride with HubSpot and just see this out. So that to me is the biggest challenge. And like we've been saying, these big tech companies were going to figure it out. It was only a matter of time until the platform companies realized that they needed to be building this technology in. And as soon as they do, it totally shakes up the ecosystem now of, well, who do I go for point solutions? I just need a writing tool, or I just need an email tool, or I just need this. And it's only logical that the platforms are going to build those capabilities in. Now, They might do it through ecosystem partners. But in a case like this, with the innovation happening with ChatGPT and the opening up of that API, which we're going to talk about as the next topic, it just like resets the ecosystem, in my opinion. So that was my first takeaway, is that you need to focus on the applications layer, and there is a massive amount of uncertainty in that layer. And then the other thing that jumped out to me is like, they just don't know. Like
Mm.
they're fairly confident the infrastructure layer, where the clouds and the GPUs, like NVIDIA, and I've been bullish on NVIDIA for years. Like if anybody's listened to me give talks, um, and so I think that the infrastructure layer seems really obvious, but that's more of a like personal investing thing. Like if you're a marketer or a CEO, the infrastructure layer doesn't matter that much to you. I mean, other than the cloud you choose to participate in, like whether it's AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud. I mean, those are your three main players. So that decision, is something you can affect. But those the things that are being built on GPUs and TPUs from NVIDIA and Google. And
Mm.
that's really not something that affects you. So then the next layer up, where you're actually getting into the models, that is starting to come into play. Like I've been doing this myself. It's like, well, we have OpenAI's playground, we have Cohere's playground, we can, you have Anthropic, you have Stability AI, like you have all these people that are now building models. And the question becomes, well, if I wanted to build my own thing, do I just go to those? But again, the most obvious short-term thing you have to solve for as a marketer or business leader is, which applications are we using? Which SaaS companies are we partnering with?
Mm.
And I don't think it's very obvious right now.
What about the flip side of this with the vendors themselves? I mean, this market went from us seeing a couple, big giants raising a ton of money and having really unique products to suddenly, oh my gosh, like there's so many more competitors. There's a lack of differentiation. What should the vendors themselves be thinking about?
I think they've been losing sleep over this since ChatGPT came out, honestly.
Mm.
There was toward the end, there was a really succinct kind of conclusion that I thought was very well said, and I'll just kind of read this. So they asked, where will the value accrue? And this gets into like the vendors. It says, there don't appear today to be any systematic moats in generative AI. As a first order approximation, applications lack strong product differentiation because they use similar models, aka they're all building on top of Cohere or OpenAI or other language models. Maybe it's a mix. Maybe they're developing their own, but generally they're using the same infrastructure. Applications lack product differentiation because of similar models. Models face unclear long-term differentiation because they are trained on similar data sets with similar architectures, meaning Cohere, OpenAI, the language model companies, they're all largely training on the same data sets. They need proprietary data sets to really differentiate the models and give them, power that they don't have. Otherwise, they're all kind of commoditized. Cloud providers lack deep technical differentiation because they run the same GPUs, which are hard to get. So there's a scarcity of supply in that space. And even the hardware companies manufacture their chips at the same fabs. So it's
Mhm.
just like, this is why there's uncertainty. So the next one I thought was brilliant. There are, of course, the standard moats, scale moats. Quote, I have or can raise more money than you. That's, the play some are making. Supply chain moats. I have the GPUs, you don't. Ecosystem moats. Everyone uses my software already. That could be like a HubSpot play. Like I build these tools and I already have 167,000 customers, so we're going to win. Distribution moats. I already have a sales team and more customers than you. Data pipeline moats. I've crawled more of the internet than you. But none of these moats tend to be durable over the long term, and it's too early to tell if strong direct network effects are taking hold in any layer of the stack. So that to me is like, again, if I was building CRM Writer and HubSpot just launched ChatSpot, I'm done. Like I had the vision, I had the idea, and that's irrelevant because they have a bigger moat than me in a couple of key areas, and I didn't get there first. And sorry, like good idea, go on to your next one. So that's kind of the space we're in. Is this like massive uncertainty around what is going to happen in this place? And again, the infrastructure vendors seem like the logical play, but that's not going to help you as a marketer. It
Mm.
doesn't get you anywhere.
So before we move on to our third main topic today, I want to end by talking a bit more. I love that quote in the article about the potential market size, where they say it's somewhere between all software and all human endeavors. So if some in our audience might be a little confused by that statement, it makes generative AI sound a lot more than just writing and art tools. And we've talked about this. Can you kind of outline here why generative AI is so much more than just AI assisted writing?
Yeah, we talked in a previous episode about that there won't be software companies that aren't AI powered, like
Mm,
in 3 to 5 years. Like my belief, like if we look at the marketing technology landscape, Scott Brinker has that MarTech landscape. It's got like 9,700 companies on it. Um, any company that isn't infused with AI within 3 years is done. Like that is, and I've said this publicly to SaaS companies. I've told venture capital firms this that only invest in SaaS companies. Like you have to audit your portfolio. If
mm,
you only invest in SaaS, there has to be someone on that team that deeply understands AI and can build the AI roadmap for that company, or else that investment is going to get burned. So I think that we are in a space where all software will become AI powered software. Like there will be a day in the not too distant future where you don't have a software product or company that isn't an AI company. And I don't even think that's debatable. Like
mm.
I think it is obvious. It's been obvious to some people for years. I think it is now obvious to everyone. All the venture capital firms I've talked to, all the SaaS companies are talking to. ChatGPT woke everyone up to the fact that this was real and it was happening right now. All of human endeavors kind of starts to go more in the realm of the world of bit stuff we talked about and knowledge work and creativity, certainly labor.
Mm.
We didn't put this on the agenda for today. Maybe we'll put it for next week. This company called Fusion that just released, or no, Figure that just released their humanoid robot, the version 1, and they talked about every human on Earth having their own robot, like one robot for every human on Earth. And they're talking about it in at home care. They're talking about off world adventures. They're talking about labor and solving for job shortages. Those robots, whether you want them to exist or not, ex machina style robots, um, are powered by AI. They're being made possible by these leaps in AI, language understanding, language generation, computer vision. So yes, like it is as crazy as it sounds to say the potential size of this market is somewhere between all software and all human endeavors. It's not actually crazy when you
Mm.
understand how this technology works and what it's going to be capable of. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of a funny way to end it. And that's why I said, like, I loved the article. I thought it was written with a little bit of humor,
Yeah.
um, but a lot of understandable facts. And I think it's important for people to read it. If you're building technology or buying technology, or leading a company or investing in technology, I think you have to read the article.